Smart women are not born different. They become different. They learn to see what others overlook, to act when others freeze, and to stay calm when everyone else loses control. They think with clarity, not chaos. They understand that the world doesn't reward noise, it rewards results. A smart woman doesn't try to prove her worth, she knows it. She doesn't wait for the world to hand her power, she creates it. And while others chase approval, she builds discipline, strategy, and inner strength. Because thinking differently isn't about being better than others. It's about being wiser than your past self. Emotions don't lead, strategy does. That's the difference between reacting and responding, between chaos and control. Smart women feel deeply. They care, they love, they hurt, but they don't let those feelings become their compass. They understand that emotions are signals, not instructions. When something goes wrong, they don't let anger or fear hijack their choices. Instead, they take a breath, observe the situation, and make decisions that serve their long-term purpose, not their temporary mood. That's what makes them steady when others crumble. In a world that constantly provokes you with opinions, criticism, and noise, it's easy to get emotional. But smart women know the power of restraint. They don't react to every comment or fight every battle. They choose their responses like a chess player choosing her next move. It's not about being cold, it's about being calculated. Because when you allow your emotions to run the show, you give away your control. And control is everything. You can't build a strong life, a strong career, or a strong mind without mastering your internal world first. There will always be moments that test you: betrayal, disappointment, failure. The average person gets consumed by the emotion of the moment. The smart woman steps back and asks, "What's my next smart move?" That one question separates the powerful from the powerless. She knows that every challenge carries information, every mistake hides a lesson, and every storm can be used as strategy if she stays calm enough to think clearly. Being strategic doesn't mean being emotionless. It means understanding when to engage your heart and when to lead with your head. Smart women don't suppress their emotions. They study them. They use their feelings to gain insight, to understand themselves and others better. They recognize patterns, they learn what triggers them, and they use that awareness to grow stronger. That's emotional intelligence at its highest level. Not ignoring your emotions, but managing them like a leader. Smart women also understand timing. They know that sometimes silence is the most strategic response. Not every situation deserves your energy. Sometimes, walking away with dignity is smarter than winning an argument. They think beyond the moment, beyond the ego. They understand that reacting emotionally might give short-term satisfaction, but responding strategically builds long-term respect. When you start leading with strategy, you stop living like a victim of circumstance. You begin to create your own outcomes. People start to notice your composure, your clarity, your confidence. They can't quite figure out why you never lose your cool. But you know, it's because your emotions don't lead you, they inform you. And when emotion meets strategy, that's when real power is born. Smart women think differently because they choose to, not because they don't feel, but because they've learned how to lead themselves first. Confidence is quiet, competence is loud. You can always tell who truly knows what they're doing and who's just pretending. The loud ones, they talk too much about their greatness because deep down they need the noise to feel secure. But the confident woman, the one who has earned her place, she doesn't need to announce herself. Her presence, her work, and her consistency speak long before she does. She's not chasing validation, she's focused on results. That's what real confidence looks like: calm, grounded, and unshakable. A smart woman doesn't measure confidence by how many people notice her. She measures it by how she shows up when no one is watching. She knows that real power isn't about being the loudest in the room, it's about being the most composed. Because loudness fades, but competence echoes. When you truly know your craft, when you've done the work, you don't have to prove yourself. Your performance does it for you. People feel that quiet strength, that grounded certainty that says, I know who I am, and I know what I bring. Confidence is not arrogance. Arrogance is fragile. It breaks under pressure. Confidence is earned through discipline, failure, and resilience. Smart women don't try to look confident. They become confident through effort. They study, they prepare, they show up again and again until their competence becomes instinct. They're not waiting for someone to clap for them. They're busy mastering their next move. And because of that, they move differently, slower, wiser, more deliberate. They don't need to convince anyone. They just do, and the results do the talking. There's a unique kind of peace that comes with competence. When you've done your homework, when you've practiced your skill, when you know you can handle what comes. You don't need to shout about it. You walk with quiet certainty. You don't need to argue for your worth. You don't need to justify your seat at the table. You've earned it, and that silent knowing is what commands respect. People sense it. They may not understand it, but they feel it. When you see a woman who carries herself with grace under pressure, who doesn't overreact, who listens more than she speaks, that's not passivity, that's control. That's what real confidence looks like. It's strength disguised as calm. It's power that doesn't seek attention because it already knows its value. And when competence meets confidence, that's when she becomes unstoppable. She doesn't need to shout her success. She becomes it. Smart women think differently because they've learned that noise never built anything lasting. They'd rather let their actions create the echo. They understand that true influence doesn't come from being seen. It comes from being respected. So they stay grounded, they keep learning, and they let their results speak the loudest. Because confidence doesn't have to prove, it performs. And competence is the language only the truly confident can speak fluently. Smart women don't compete. They elevate. They understand that comparison is a distraction that drains focus and energy. Competing with others means you're playing by someone else's rules, measuring yourself with someone else's standards, and chasing someone else's version of success. But a smart woman knows better. She knows that her path is her own, her pace is her own, and her power is not determined by anyone else's progress. She doesn't look sideways, she looks forward. While others are busy keeping score, she's busy building something that will last. The truth is, competition often comes from insecurity. When you're not sure of your value, you start to compare, to prove, to outdo. But when you know who you are and what you bring, you don't need to compete. You create. Smart women create opportunities instead of waiting for them. They open doors for others instead of guarding them. They understand that success is not a limited resource. Someone else's win doesn't mean your loss. And when you think that way, you stop seeing people as threats and start seeing them as possibilities. A smart woman isn't afraid to uplift others because she knows that strength shared is strength multiplied. She understands that leadership isn't about standing above people. It's about standing among them and raising the standard for everyone. She doesn't gossip or undermine. She collaborates, teaches, and inspires. She knows that when one woman rises, it shows others what's possible. That's how elevation works. It turns competition into collective growth. The smartest women also understand that envy is wasted energy. They don't let someone else's achievements make them feel smaller. They let them serve as proof that more is possible. They study success, not resent it. They ask, what can I learn from her? Instead of, why her and not me? That mindset keeps them focused, grounded, and constantly improving. They're not chasing attention, they're mastering alignment. And when you're aligned with your purpose, no one can take that space from you. They know that people who compete from ego often burn out. The need to be better than others becomes a cage that keeps them running in circles. But smart women choose growth over rivalry. They spend their time learning, developing, and becoming so good at what they do that competition becomes irrelevant. They don't try to take someone's spot, they create their own arena. That's real power, building something so authentic that it can't be copied or replaced. So they move differently. They lift others while lifting themselves. They celebrate other women's victories because they know it doesn't dim their own light. They understand that when you rise by comparison, your success is fragile. But when you rise by elevation, your success is unstoppable. Smart women don't compete to win, they rise to transform. They make people want to do better, think better, and be better. And that's what separates those who seek attention from those who create impact. Smart women play long-term games. They don't chase quick wins or temporary applause because they understand that real success is built on patience, consistency, and endurance. While others rush for immediate results, they're focused on building something that lasts. They know that anything earned overnight can disappear just as fast. So instead of getting caught up in short-term satisfaction, they commit to steady progress. They think in years, not moments. They build in silence, trusting that their effort will speak for them when the time is right. Playing the long game means being okay with not being recognized right away. It means showing up even when no one's watching, working hard even when no one's clapping. Smart women don't need constant validation because they understand that growth takes time. They are willing to sacrifice instant comfort for future stability. They don't make emotional decisions, they make strategic ones. They invest in habits, relationships, and skills that compound with time. That's why, while others burn out chasing shortcuts, they keep rising, stronger, wiser, and more grounded. Smart women also understand that credibility is earned, not claimed. They don't talk about what they're going to do. They do it consistently. They know that every choice adds up to their reputation, and that character is the foundation of trust. They would rather move slowly with integrity than advance quickly by compromising their values. That's because they're not just building careers, they're building legacies. They think beyond today. Every word, every action, every decision is an investment in the future version of themselves. They also know that patience doesn't mean passivity, it means discipline, the ability to stay committed when results take time. Smart women understand that progress often happens in silence. They don't announce every move or broadcast every step. They let their work mature quietly, like something powerful growing underground. Because when the time comes to rise, they rise with roots deep enough to handle the storm. That's what separates those who endure from those who fade. Long-term thinkers don't get distracted by every setback. They don't interpret failure as defeat. They see it as data. They ask what went wrong, what they can improve, and how to move forward smarter. They see every obstacle as part of the process, not the end of it. They're not chasing a finish line. They're mastering the race itself. And because of that, they evolve faster, last longer, and stay relevant when others disappear. Playing the long game is not glamorous, it's lonely, it's demanding, and it takes faith. But smart women don't need the world's permission to keep going. They trust their process. They know that real success is never sudden. It's built day by day, decision by decision, through the quiet strength of consistency. They're not here to make noise. They're here to make impact. And the thing about long-term players is, they always outlast those who only came to win for a moment. Smart women understand the power of silence. They know that words have weight, and that sometimes the strongest message is the one you don't say out loud. In a world where everyone rushes to speak, to post, to prove, silence becomes a form of strength. It's not emptiness, it's control. It's the decision to protect your peace instead of feeding chaos. When a smart woman chooses silence, it's not because she has nothing to say. It's because she's thinking, observing, and choosing her moment. Silence gives her clarity, and clarity gives her power. Silence is not weakness, it's wisdom. Smart women know that reacting to everything steals their focus and exposes their emotions. They understand that not every question deserves a response, not every argument deserves attention, and not every attack requires defense. Sometimes silence speaks louder than 1,000 explanations. It says, "I see you, but I won't let you control my energy." That's what maturity looks like. The ability to walk away from noise and still feel confident in your truth. A smart woman uses silence to listen, not just to others, but to herself. She listens to her intuition, that quiet inner voice that often knows the truth long before logic catches up. She understands that growth doesn't always happen in loud moments. It happens in reflection, in stillness, in thought. While others are busy proving a point, she's gathering information. She watches, analyzes, and understands the dynamics before she acts. Her silence is never empty. It's full of awareness. In conversations, silence becomes her greatest tool. She doesn't rush to fill every gap or over-explain her value. She lets people reveal themselves. Because when you stay quiet long enough, people show you who they really are. Smart women understand that silence creates space. Space to see, space to think, and space to choose the right response. They use it strategically, not passively. It's not that they can't speak, it's that they've mastered when not to. There's a unique power in being unbothered. When someone tries to provoke her, a smart woman doesn't react impulsively. She knows that reacting gives power away, so she stays calm. She keeps her composure even when others lose theirs. That stillness, that quiet confidence, unsettles people, because power that doesn't need to prove itself is the most intimidating kind. Her silence becomes her armor. It protects her peace, her dignity, and her focus. The smartest women know that silence can't be misquoted. It keeps their integrity intact. It keeps them above the drama and out of the traps that emotional reactions create. Silence gives them the advantage to think, to plan, to move strategically. And when they finally do speak, every word carries weight, because people have learned that when she chooses to break her silence, she means every syllable. Smart women think differently because they understand that silence isn't a lack of power, it's the purest form of it. Smart women study people, not just books. They understand that knowledge isn't limited to what's written on a page. It's also found in the faces, words, and actions of others. They know that emotional intelligence can open doors that academic intelligence alone never will. A smart woman watches how people behave when no one is looking, how they treat those who can't do anything for them, how their tone changes when power shifts. She pays attention to patterns, not promises, because people will tell you who they are, not through their words, but through their behavior. She doesn't just listen to what is said, she listens to what is not said. She hears the hesitation behind a compliment, the tension behind a smile, the truth behind an excuse. Smart women read energy before they read words. They observe body language, tone, and timing because they know communication is far more than sentences. That's how they stay 2 steps ahead. They don't assume, they analyze. And that awareness gives them an advantage in every situation, whether it's in leadership, relationships, or negotiation. Smart women know that understanding people is the key to influence. You can't lead someone you don't understand. You can't build trust without empathy. So instead of trying to impress, they try to connect. They learn how others think, what drives them, what scares them, and what motivates them. They know when to push and when to pause. They understand that influence doesn't come from force. It comes from understanding how people work. That's why they can walk into a room, say little, and still hold authority. They've mastered the psychology behind presence. Books can teach information, but people teach wisdom. Smart women learn from every experience, the good, the bad, the painful. They pay attention to how others handle pressure, how they react under stress, how they recover from failure. Every person they meet becomes a lesson in human behavior. They take mental notes, they adjust, they evolve. That's why they rarely repeat the same mistake twice. They've already studied the patterns that led to it. They also understand that studying people doesn't mean judging them. It means understanding them enough to navigate the world with clarity. Smart women know that not everyone deserves access to their energy, and studying people helps them decide who does. They know how to spot manipulation before it reaches them, how to recognize sincerity without words, and how to distance themselves without guilt. Observation becomes protection. In every situation, a smart woman reads the room before she speaks. She adjusts her tone, her timing, and her words to fit the moment. That's not pretending. That's emotional intelligence. It's knowing how to deliver truth in a way it will be heard. She uses understanding as strategy and empathy as strength. Because she knows that success doesn't only come from what you know, it comes from how well you understand the people around you. Smart women think differently because they've mastered the greatest subject of all, human nature. Smart women set boundaries without apology. They understand that peace is power, and protecting it is not selfish. It's essential. They know that every time they say yes to something that drains them, they say no to something that could grow them. That's why they are careful with their time, selective with their energy, and deliberate with their commitments. They don't overextend themselves to please others because they've learned that trying to be everything to everyone only leaves you empty. A smart woman knows her limits and she respects them, not because she's cold, but because she values herself enough to protect her well-being. Boundaries are not walls, they're filters. Smart women don't shut people out. They simply decide what and who gets access. They know that not everyone deserves a seat at their table. Some people only show up to take, to drain, or to distract. So, they draw the line clearly. They communicate it firmly and calmly, without guilt or explanation. When someone pushes those boundaries, they don't argue, they act, they distance, they redirect, or they disengage. But they never beg for respect, because a woman who knows her worth never tries to convince others of it. Setting boundaries is not easy, especially in a world that teaches women to be agreeable, accommodating, and endlessly available. But smart women challenge that expectation. They know that saying no doesn't make them difficult, it makes them disciplined. They'd rather disappoint someone else for a moment than disappoint themselves for a lifetime. They understand that protecting their space allows them to think clearly, work effectively, and live authentically. When they choose peace over people-pleasing, they're not being rude. They're being responsible. Smart women also understand that boundaries teach others how to treat them. Every time they tolerate disrespect, lateness, or manipulation, they set a standard. And every time they enforce their limits, they set a stronger one. They know that people who truly respect you will adjust. Those who don't were only there for what they could take. It's not cruelty, it's clarity. And once you realize that, you stop over-explaining, over-giving, and overcompensating. You simply live with self-respect. A smart woman's boundaries also protect her energy. She knows that energy is her most valuable resource, more than money or status. She won't waste it on gossip, arguments, or people who thrive on negativity. She'd rather spend it on growth, purpose, and peace. She's not afraid to say, "This is not for me," and walk away, even if it means standing alone, because she knows that solitude is better than chaos disguised as company. The world may call her distant, cold, or too selective, but she knows that's the price of peace. And peace to her is priceless. She doesn't owe anyone an explanation for prioritizing her well-being. She has learned that boundaries don't push people away, they filter the right ones in. Smart women think differently because they understand that the strongest form of self-respect is knowing when to stop giving others the power to drain you. Smart women stay authentic in a world that rewards pretenders. They refuse to trade their truth for approval, even when the world makes it tempting. Everywhere you look, people are performing, trying to be liked, trying to fit in, trying to build an image that doesn't match who they really are. But a smart woman knows that pretending might earn applause, yet it will never bring peace. She doesn't chase the illusion of perfection. She chooses the freedom of honesty. Her power comes from being real, even when being real is uncomfortable. Authenticity takes courage. It's easier to blend in than to stand out, easier to follow the crowd than to walk your own path. But smart women understand that blending in costs you your identity, and following the crowd costs you your direction. So they stay grounded in who they are. They don't shrink to make others comfortable, and they don't exaggerate to seem impressive. They show up as themselves, confident, imperfect, and unapologetic. They know that the right people will be drawn to their truth, and the wrong ones will fall away. Either way, they win. They've learned that authenticity isn't about saying everything you think. It's about meaning everything you say. It's about being consistent, the same person in private as in public. Smart women don't build their image on trends or approval because they know that popularity fades, but integrity endures. When they speak from conviction, not from the desire to please. That's why their words carry weight, because they come from a place of honesty, not performance. The world often tries to convince women to be something else, softer, quieter, smaller. Smart women reject that narrative. They understand that being authentic doesn't mean being agreeable. It means being self-aware enough to know what aligns with your values and brave enough to live by it. They won't apologize for being ambitious, outspoken, or strong-minded. They know that authenticity might not make them everyone's favorite, but it makes them trustworthy, and that's far more valuable. They also understand that being authentic doesn't mean being stubborn. It means knowing who you are, but staying open to growth. Smart women evolve, but they don't lose themselves in the process. They can adapt without pretending, and they can learn without abandoning what defines them. They understand that growth and authenticity are not opposites. They are partners. One deepens the other. And because they stay true to themselves, they attract genuine connections. They draw in people who respect their honesty, not those who are fooled by appearances. They may walk alone for a while, but they never walk empty. Their life feels real. Their relationships, their success, their peace, all built on truth, not image. The world may celebrate pretenders for a moment, but truth always outlasts the act. Smart women know this. That's why they stay authentic, even when it costs them comfort. Because pretending might get you attention, but authenticity earns you respect. And respect, the kind rooted in truth, is what real power is built on. Smart women don't seek permission to be powerful. They've learned that waiting for approval keeps you small, and that no one will hand you a seat at the table if you don't first believe you deserve to be there. They don't ask if they're allowed to take up space. They simply take it with grace and purpose. They understand that power isn't given, it's claimed, and that claiming it doesn't make them arrogant. It makes them accountable for their own potential. They've stopped waiting for someone else to tell them they're ready because they know readiness is built through action, not permission. A smart woman doesn't wait for circumstances to align perfectly before she moves. She acts, she learns, and she adjusts along the way. She's not afraid to start before she feels fully prepared because she trusts her ability to figure things out. She's seen too many women hold themselves back, waiting for confidence to arrive, waiting for validation, waiting for someone to notice their worth. But she knows confidence doesn't come before action. It grows because of it. So she moves, even if her hands shake, even if her voice trembles, even if no one claps. She doesn't need someone's approval to define her value. She's learned that validation is fleeting, but self-belief is permanent. She knows that when she gives others the power to define her, she also gives them the power to limit her, so she takes that power back. She understands that being powerful isn't about control over others. It's about control over yourself, your mindset, your direction. Power, to her, is the ability to choose who she becomes and how she reacts, no matter what the world throws at her. Smart women also understand that being powerful doesn't mean being loud or forceful. Power can be quiet, measured, and steady. It can show up in a calm voice during chaos, in the decision to walk away from what doesn't serve you, in the courage to start over when everything falls apart. They know that true strength isn't always seen. Sometimes it's in the moments no one notices. When you keep showing up despite the doubt, despite the noise, despite the odds. They know people may not always welcome their strength. Society often labels strong women as difficult, intimidating, or too much. But a smart woman doesn't shrink to make others comfortable. She knows that her light might expose what others refuse to face, and that's not her burden to carry. She's not here to fit a mold. She's here to redefine it, and in doing so, she gives permission to other women to stand taller, speak louder, and own their worth without apology. She walks into every room as though she belongs, not out of arrogance, but out of certainty. Because she's done the work, she's earned her ground, and she's not afraid to claim it. Smart women think differently because they understand that permission is an illusion. No one can give you what's already yours. Power belongs to the one brave enough to step forward and take it. Smart women turn setbacks into strategy. They understand that failure is not the end, it's simply feedback. When life hits them, they don't crumble and call it defeat. They pause, assess, and learn. They know that pain often carries the lessons success can't teach. Every obstacle, every rejection, every disappointment becomes a blueprint for growth. Instead of asking, "Why me?" they ask, "What is this teaching me?" That shift in mindset is what transforms setbacks into strategy. They don't see losses as something to avoid. They see them as data, information that helps them move smarter the next time. When things fall apart, a smart woman doesn't waste energy blaming others or drowning in self-pity. She understands that her power lies in her ability to adapt. Life doesn't always go as planned. Opportunities fall through, people change, doors close. But she doesn't let that break her. She takes time to feel, to process, but she never stays stuck. She rewrites her plan. She studies the mistake without shame and uses it as fuel for the next step. She knows resilience isn't about avoiding pain. It's about using it with purpose. Every smart woman has faced moments that tested her limits, times when everything she built seemed to fall apart. But instead of letting those moments define her, she allowed them to refine her. She used rejection to strengthen her resolve, failure to sharpen her focus, and hardship to deepen her wisdom. She doesn't believe in starting over. She believes in starting smarter. That's what separates her from those who give up. She doesn't see the past as wasted time. She sees it as preparation. Setbacks don't scare her because she's been through them before. She knows that falling isn't the opposite of progress. It's part of it. She's learned to stay calm in chaos because she trusts her ability to rebuild. She doesn't panic when plans fall apart. She pivots. She doesn't let disappointment become identity. Instead, she uses her setbacks as strategy, each one making her sharper, wiser, and stronger than before. Her scars become her strength because they remind her of what she's survived. A smart woman doesn't let failure silence her ambition. She knows that success isn't built on perfection, but on persistence. Every time she gets knocked down, she comes back with a clearer mind and a tougher spirit. She's not bitter about what didn't work. She's grateful for what it taught her. Because now she moves with precision. She understands the terrain better. She's strategic where she used to be impulsive, patient where she used to rush, and confident where she once doubted. In the end, she realizes that every setback was secretly an upgrade, a redirection towards something better suited for her purpose. Smart women think differently because they don't let pain end their story. They let it rewrite the next chapter. They turn what broke them into wisdom, what slowed them into strength, and what hurt them into hunger. That's why they always rise, not the same, but stronger, smarter, and more unstoppable than before.